British rotorcraft, representing all three services. And this currently the only flying Wessex in civilian hands in the world. This ex-Royal Navy rescue platform. But also, Andy, it reflects the involvement of the Wessex Royal Navy service 40 years ago in the Falklands, doesn't it?
Indeed, and as we talked about very early on in the show, exactly 40 years ago today, Wessex was lost during the Essex attack on HMS Glamorgan. That was an anti-submarine version, the HAS-3. Glamorgan came under attack, turned its stern onto the missile. The missile came over the top of the deck, it didn't hit the hull, but went straight through the hangar, where the Wessex was temporarily resting.
Yeah, both some older HAS-3s like that, and HU5 like this one. It's a variant, twin-engine variant, that was developed for the Royal Marines Commando support role, served in the Falklands, deploying special forces, members of the SAS, and the FBS, the Special Boat Service, moving men and material around the South Atlantic theatre. But it did indeed come at a cost. 9 Wessex were lost there, 6 of them in the sinking of the Atlantic conveyor that we were talking about at the start of the programme in relation to the Chinook.
And the incredible feat of airmanship during the retaking of South Georgia, loss of 2 Wessex there in atrocious weather conditions. It's worth researching online or reading some of the books on the subject. Incredible story. Wessex trying to extract special forces in storm force 12 weather. I can remember reports of the Wessex being moved sideways, sliding down the glacier before rolling over. But one Wessex did manage to come to the rescue. Everyone was extracted later.
And that Wessex still survives to this day. It's an old Mark III that has been converted for the commando support role, and it's exhibited in the Fleet Air Arm Museum at Yeovilton, nicknamed Humphrey, and it still bears the scars of those operations in the South Atlantic. This was a license-produced development of the Sikorsky S-58, an American design, because Westland were in cahoots with Sikorsky at the time, you might say. They already developed the S-55 as a whirlwind. The Wessex was the RAF Air Sea Rescue helicopter. The S-58 was shipped to the UK, re-engined with a British power plant, a single Napier Gazelle, and it first took to the air in May 1957. The following June 1958, first Wessex took to the air.
And of course, in addition to supporting our search and rescue team, there's also a big royal link here as well, of course. Both the late Prince Philip and Prince Charles were trained as Wessex pilots, and of course this aircraft is type did serve on the Queen's flight, as it was called then, not 32 the Royal Squadron, that's later incarnation. They were modified, I think the interior was a little bit flush.
It was awarded first by the Royal Navy as far as the British services were concerned. The HAS-1 anti-submarine platform came into service in 1961. It was the first anti-submarine helicopter for the Navy to have been designed as such from the outset, and also the first for that role with gas turbine power. So it really was a huge advance on everything that had gone before, far more capable at night and in bad weather. It really did give the Royal Navy a great deal of what it needed for that role for many, many years. The RAF took it on as well as the Wessex HU5 with twin coupled Rolls-Royce nose engines, and that's the configuration we see on this one.
And in fact, that's one of the main design considerations for the sort of chunkiness of the aircraft. It's the position of the engine. The aircraft kind of has a mouth, yes, the nose, and that actually opens up, and that's the front end of the engine. The engines are actually angled upwards at 45 degrees. The pilot, the aircrew, basically stride them, and then the crankshaft and the gearbox is behind and above. It's basically, the engines are basically positioned at an angle of 45 degrees in this aircraft. Remarkable.
And the pilot, when you see it on the ground, you really get an appreciation of how high the pilot is, really up in the heavens in the Wessex. The RAF put the Wessex into service in 1964, and they operated worldwide, supporting UK and Allied forces. They served for many years in Northern Ireland, and of course, Wessex were the last British military aircraft to serve in Hong Kong with number 28 Squadron, up until the territory was handed back to Chinese control in 1997. Doesn't it look absolutely beautiful? It really is a stunner, this aircraft, which dates from 1966. It served with the Royal Navy Commander Helicopter Force, the so-called Jungley Force, out in the Far East. It was transferred to search and rescue role with 771 Naval Air Squadron at Culgrove in Cornwall. But it then went back to commando tasks with 845 Squadron in the Falklands. It was flown out there in a short Belfast transport of heavy cargo airlines in May 1982, so 40 years ago last month, and it returned aboard the Royal Fleet Auxiliary ship RFA Oliver in November 1983. So this airframe is a Falklands veteran.
And of course, a heavy lift Belfast.
We have a Lex RAF Belfast here.
In the museum, on the Bell Slope.
Yes, in the early days. Yes, much more effective by the time heavy lifts got older, and of course, rather ironically, having been offloaded by the RAF went on, almost inevitably, you might think, to use them for a lot of contract work.
By the old days.
Yes.
And when the sun catches the roadpiece, you can see it sort of strobes, blinks at you, because one of the guys painted a lighter colour to create that lovely effect. Because visibility is very important in search and rescue.
This one was retired by the Navy in 1986. It became a general instructional airframe for many years. It was much later acquired by Andrew Whitehouse for his historic helicopters collection. It flew again in February 2019, and you might well have seen it feature in a TV series, the name of which I temporarily forget, about different aircraft restorations. 10,000 hours were spent on the restoration of this machine, and it's part of the 4-strong historic helicopters deployment to Cosford for today's show, which is